Well, thank you all for coming on this beautiful Pasadena day. I was reflecting on the fact that, I'm Terry Tornek, Mayor of Pasadena, and I welcome you here to the Gamble House and to Pasadena. I was reflecting that if we could travel back in time to 1966, some of you weren't alive in 1966, but who remembers 1966? Oh, okay. If we could travel back in time to 1966, among the many differences that we would observe in Pasadena is that the city was not the well-established practitioner of historic preservation that we are today. The future of this wonderful Gamble House was very much in doubt. When the Gamble family donated it to the city, part of the agreement that was signed stipulated that they would rather have the house demolished than allow it to fall into a state of disrepair, which at the time was a real concern. So the family and the city turned to the University of Southern California to provide the expertise and the financial resources to maintain the house and to avoid that potentially catastrophic fate. Today, however, circumstances have changed rather dramatically. Pasadena and preservation are very strongly linked. We have in the city dozens of historic districts and landmark buildings. We even have landmark trees. We have a craftsman weekend, and we have a commitment to conserve our historic resources that are really baked into the city's DNA. It's part of the essence of Pasadena's culture. And of course, the Gamble House has developed its own expertise. Represented here today, the staff, the docents, the friends of the house, and the family have created the predicate for the formation of a new Gamble House Conservancy with the skills, the track record, and the resources to carry the house forward into the future. So today, thanks to a lot of people and a lot of hard work, is the day for us to recognize the evolution in the governance of the house. Today we announce the new agreement that transfers management of the house from USC to the Conservancy. That's an applause line. It's also the day to express our gratitude to the University of Southern California for being there when it counted. It's the day to credit the staff, which has been incredibly patient through this transition. The docents, who I have to acknowledge because otherwise I won't have peace at home. And the friends of the house for being instrumental in this evolution and to announce the next chapter in the wonderful history of the Gamble House. With us today are representatives of all of these participants. We have Sam Garrison, the Senior Vice President of the university's University Relations, David Brown, the President of the new Gamble House Conservancy, Ted Bosley, Executive Director and CEO of the Conservancy, and representatives of the Gamble family. I will ask each of them to make brief remarks and then take any questions. So first, Sam Garrison, Senior Vice President from USC.
Morning, and thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. Again, my name's Sam Garrison. I'm the Senior Vice President of University Relations, but most importantly, I'm a neighbor up the street and very proud to live so close to this exceptional home. On behalf of USC and the USC School of Architecture, we are delighted to be here today to usher in the newest era for this wonderful historic home. And for the past 53 years, USC's mission at the Gamble House has been to inspire the public's appreciation and understanding of this arts and crafts masterpiece, the architects Green and Green, and the incredible legacy of Mary and David Gamble. This transition to stand on its own as the Gamble House Conservancy is intended to be a new model for how historic houses are managed in the communities where they are situated. and the city of Pasadena has a proven track record as a steward of historic homes with more than 30 historic districts and 5 national historic landmarks within the city borders. We have absolute trust in the city and the Gamble House Conservancy to continue that stewardship for generations to come. And we are very pleased that David Brown will serve as president of the Gamble House Conservancy because his deep experience leading these types of institutions right here in the Pasadena area makes him the right person for this new entity. USC will continue to support the Gamble House as partners with the new Conservancy. The USC School of Architecture will maintain important ongoing ties, including our Master of Heritage Conservation program, as well as ongoing student site visits and conservation classes taught right here. We want to again thank Mayor Tornek and everybody who has been a part of this thoughtful and important transition. USC is so grateful to the mayor, the city of Pasadena, the Gamble family heirs, and the amazing community of docents, patrons, local neighbors, and visitors who continue to support and ensure the legacy of this wonderful house. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Now I will call upon young David Brown to talk about the Conservancy a little bit.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Garrison, friends, docents, the fabric of the Gamble House. Good morning, and I feel as if my few words here will be just a preface to a future that I think we're all very, very excited about. As Mr. Garrison said, I've been in the nonprofit world in a serious way now for almost 36 years, 37 years, and I've had all kinds of experience. And it turns out that a nonprofit has, through a lot of social science research, has an actual pattern of development through time. There's a founding stage, there is the excited founder, there's the first steps phase, there's the engagement phase, there's the transition phase. And I think that, as Sam said, we are in, or the mayor said, that we are in that process right now, moving from one form of governance to another, but maintaining the same kinds of ties with our rich heritage that we would like to be remembered for. The Gamble House is unique, one of a kind, not duplicated anywhere. And in our contemporary modern world, that's a unique privilege, I think, for all of those of us who work to preserve it, work to keep it alive and not an antique, and work just for the joy of seeing the institution thrive. So this is being looked upon as the next phase in a meaningful and deepening kind of phase of the governance structure. If we do our jobs well, we'll keep this almost a secret, because to the people who come here to visit, what we want them to remember are a few key messages about craftsmanship, about care, about community building, and about continuity. An architecture authority no less than Winston Churchill is reputed to have said, "We first shape our buildings, and then our buildings shape us." And I think that that's exactly and precisely the quality that the Gamble House has, will continue and maintain and endure as we move forward into the next very exciting phase. We'll be guided by initially a small group that will grow slowly, and is a group that is unique, almost unique, by virtue of the continuity of governance provided by the founding family, the donors, the Gamble family. Today we have with us, did John make it? John Mitchell is John. There's John. Okay, John Mitchell Tracy Hurl and Brian Hurl. We have two-generation Hurls here, two generations in the Gamble family, and that continuity is special, valued, and has been extremely supportive through this process. So thanks for coming. Thanks for supporting the Gamble House, of course. The next tour is behind the velvet ropes, which is one of our specialties. It's full, I'm afraid. Sorry. But if you come back and make an appointment, I'm sure that we can introduce you to the house further for those who would enjoy that. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, David. Next, we have a person who has been associated with the house for decades and who has a large hand in the success that we've enjoyed over that period of time, and has been patiently awaiting this day in terms of making the transition to governance to the Conservancy, and has maintained his enthusiasm and his commitment to the House, and will be responsible for this making this transition successful. A person that is much beloved in this Gamble House family of people in Pasadena, and who has demonstrated his boundless enthusiasm and commitment for all things related to the house, and has really created an environment where the house has become a beacon for what's become a national activity and recognition, and really deserves a lot of credit as an individual. So I introduce you now to the man who will be the CEO and the executive director of the Gamble House Conservancy, Ted Bosley.
Thank you very much, Terry, for those very kind words, and thank you all for being here today on this exciting, momentous, and really gratifying moment. It's a privilege and an honor to have been asked to serve as the first executive director of the Gamble House Conservancy. And I want to acknowledge the support that the City of Pasadena and the University of Southern California gave to the Gamble House so that it could open to the public in 1966. And I was cognizant, more or less, of what was going on in 1966, but it had more to do, I think, with Snoopy and Peanuts, and those were my concerns. But that year is really important in the history of historic preservation in America, and the Gamble House is a mirror of that history. It is the year that the Federal Preservation Act was passed in Washington, D.C., the same year that this house opened to the public. And so the Gamble House really has served as a national model, whether it knew it or not, from the day that it opened. And in the day, it was with great foresight and courage that the responsibility for its preservation was accepted by USC. And it was with equal wisdom and foresight that the City of Pasadena agreed to accept the gift of the house and its contents, very importantly, from the Gamble family. In turn, the Gamble family's understanding of the need to preserve the house in the first place, and their ongoing generosity and dedication to this icon of American architecture, cannot be overstated. The family has shown time and again an enduring commitment that is rare in the history of donated historic sites. It is thanks to USC, the City of Pasadena, the Gamble family, and the thousands of volunteers, donors, and staff over the past 54 years that the Gamble House became ready to operate on its own as an independent nonprofit organization. Places like these not only represent our cultural capital, they must also be protected against the shifting and sometimes harsh winds of fad and fashion to which all heritage sites are subjected. We must remain cognizant of the intrinsic and lasting values that they reflect back to us from the quickly receding past. It will be the mission of the Gamble House Conservancy to continue to honor the timeless values and lessons of the Gamble House. Architecture as a fine art, expressed by the genius of Charles and Henry Green, its architects. Thank you very much.
Okay, just one other little piece of business. This transaction, this agreement between the various participants, the city, USC, the new Conservancy, and the family, was really much more complicated than I ever imagined. And I always underestimate this stuff. But this one really got fiendishly complicated. And it's very rare that I am willing to give credit to lawyers, because typically they have done nothing but impede progress and make things more complicated, or give you bad news. I mean, all of those things. But in this instance, the truth is this new agreement couldn't have happened without the participation of some phenomenally skilled and committed attorneys. And on our side of the ledger, we have from the city attorney's office, Teresa Fuentes, who is here. And representing the Conservancy, we have Claire Collins. And really, we were almost at an impasse. And if the university's attorney, Attorney Yamaguchi, hadn't engaged and involved with these capable people, we wouldn't be here today. And the one other person that I really need to acknowledge is the person who's been the acting director during this period, and that's Jennifer Truteau. And in a period, you know, it's easy to when there's uncertainty and the finish line isn't exactly in view. It's easy to get discouraged and lose focus. And she's really done an extraordinary job during this transition period, which lasted longer than I had hoped. But really, she's been a phenomenal player in all this, and she deserves our gratitude. So with that, we're done. Are there any questions from media or press? Or probably not, and if there are, I can answer them offline. But thank you for coming, and congratulations to all of us. We're starting a new day.